ich bin die Cinegig. Heute überprüfe ich die unendliche Geschichte von Michael Ende. Seltsamer Zufall. Es tut mir leid. Es ist langweilig. So I'm going to do the rest of this in English as meine Deutsch ist nicht so gut. So I was recommended this and I'd wanted to do it last week, but I didn't realize it was 3 movies and a book. So it took a little bit longer for me to get through than I had previously anticipated. So the original, The NeverEnding Story, came out in 1984, and at the time it was the most expensive movie made outside of the United States or the USSR. And it's very somber. It's not like German Expressionism, where if you watch a lot of older German films, particularly things by Fritz Lang, you'll see there is such a dark tone to them. And I think this is carried through, at that point, was still carrying through into the 80s. Although I don't watch a lot of 80s German film. Mostly I watch like 30s, 40s, and 20s. So this film is so sad, like with Artrax, the horse's death, to the rock biters. It's so poignant and it speaks to the themes of the story, which I'll get to in just a minute. And it's also very creative. Fantastica, as it's called in the book, or Fantasia, as it's called in the movie, gives you really like labyrinth or legend feelings. It's like a dark, creative kids' fantasy story. And the movie, the first one, only really covers the first half of the book. And the book is loosely covered, the rest in the second movie, very loosely. It goes like from The Hobbit and takes a hard left to like Return of the Kings with no breaks. So in the first the first movie, we're introduced to the main character, who is Bastian Balthazar Books. It's B-O-X, but it is pronounced Books. Hitting you over the head a little bit. And he's this very imaginative child who's bullied, and he's recently lost his mother, and he's very disconnected from his father. And his father really wants him to get his head out of the clouds and keep his, quote, feet on the ground. And he ends up getting this book from a bookstore about this land, Fantastica, that's being devoured by something called the Nothing. And we learn from Gomork, which I'll quote him later on in this, is that the Nothing is essentially people's indifference. But I would argue it's really about grief and the depression from that. And we see this kind of in the Rockbiter and Artrax. So in the movie, we see we see the Rockbiter a second time, and he's talking about his hands. They look like strong hands, don't they? And he talks about how he failed to save his companions, and when the Nothing is coming, he just says, "I will sit here and let it take me." And in the novel, however, Atreyu has this conversation at the Sands of Sorrow with Artrax, because in the book, Artrax could speak. And this is essentially what Artrax does. So the Rockbiter serves as Artrax's demise. So it's more sadness in the film, actually. And the film, I think, does a better job of portraying that grief and sorrow of both characters' demise than the book did. And both of them are sad. Oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine watching that as a child. So I only just watched this for the first time. And I couldn't imagine watching that as a kid. It's so depressing. And so I'm going to continue on. The story further has themes of isolation, and we kind of see this with the Southern Oracle that Atreyu visits. And she also her isolation kind of mirrors Bastian's. So in the movie, the Oracle creates this alter ego to be her friend. And Bastian has a friend in his own imagination. And he expresses this through reading books, which can be dangerous. And I will get to that when we're talking about the second half of the book. And this theme of apathy or indifference is expressed through the Oracle in a statement that she gives in the film of, "I don't even care that I don't care." And of course the other major theme is going to be imagination. And that's literally what Fantasia or Fantastica is. It's human children's, I guess apparently adults don't have imaginations. I guess go ahead and tell that to Stephen King. Although his is dark. Anyway, so that's literally what Fantasia is imagination. And this is where it comes back that Gomorrah kind of explains what the nothing is. And in the film, I'm just quoting the film rather than the novel, it's people lose hope. They forget their dreams. What's left is emptiness. It's like despair destroying the world. People who have no hope are easy to control, and that gets you power. I'm paraphrased. So Bastian gets to the end where the nothing has pretty much devoured everything, and Bastian and the childlike empress have this conversation where she really needs him to believe in himself and give her a name, and more importantly, she needs him to believe in his imagination. And finally he does, and he names her, and hope overcomes despair. And then it gets a little difficult when we get to the second half of the book, which is very loosely what the second movie is based on. And it came out, I think, 6 years later, and the reason it took so long is because Michael Ende honestly hated the first movie so much, he put a halt to them making a second one for so long. And the second one, well, okay, I'll get to a review of the second film, and we'll talk a little bit more about the ideas of it and of the second half of the book. It gets dark. So Bastian goes to Fantasia Fantastica, and he gets Auron, which is the necklace, and that allows him to make wishes, and with each wish he creates a story and is able to rebuild Fantasia Fantastica. And when doing this, with every wish he makes, he loses a memory. And it kind of shows that when you go too far into your imagination as a means of escapism to get away from your despair and isolation, you lose yourself. And so the confidence that he gained from the first movie, or the first half of the book, it becomes conceit, and he becomes very power hungry. And he ends up kind of declaring himself the ruler of Fantasia Fantastica, and he nearly kills Atreyu. And it gets to the point where he only has one memory left, his name, and he realizes he wants to love, and he wants to be loved. And so he goes to try to make a deal to go home, but the deal is he has to finish all of the stories that he started, so basically each wish. But because he only remembers his name, he doesn't remember the story, so it's utterly impossible for him to do this. Like I said, he nearly killed Atreyu, and Atreyu comes, and Bastian gives him a run back, and Atreyu agrees to go and finish all the stories for him so that Bastian can go home, and when he goes home, he connects with his father. So love, at this point, has defeated apathy. And the second movie is so bad! Oh my gosh, you can tell this is an American-made film compared to the first one. They had a few times where they recycled imagery and scenes from the first movie, like with long shots, and they don't fit because this movie is such a different tone. It's a lot brighter in terms of actual like saturation. The brightness factor is up. The characters are like discounts from the first one, and the acting. I know the main character is played by Jonathan Brandis, and I don't want to be mean because he did commit suicide. But oh god, the acting, like the characters didn't match the second one. They seem like different people, and you don't want that. If you have to recast, you want they don't necessarily have to look the same, or alike, but you need them to be acting similar. You don't want to think that these are different kids. Whew, then we get to the third movie. I'm gonna be honest, I put it on. I checked out. Hardcore. Ooh, we got to the scene where the rock fighter is basically doing a music video for a Born to Be Wild, and I just... What? Who thought this was a good idea? And Falkor, oh my god, Falkor. Like, you basically had this wizened luck dragon who was this beautiful creature, and you turned him into freaking Goofy from Disney. I don't understand the thoughts behind this. I would say Jack Black is in it, and it's worth watching for that, but I checked out. It was just so so bad. Overall, I would say the first movie is good. It's creative and dark, and it holds up. As this is a 90s kid review, I would say it very much holds up. I would say kids today could easily enjoy this. There's some green screen that's not great, but most of it, because, you know, it's an 80s film, so most of it is practical. Like, they really built Falkor. That's a real big dragon. You can see, it's at a museum, I forgot where. And the Rockbiter, practical. And the second and third one, I think they were practical too, and I want to say might have been worked on by the Jim Henson production, the second one. But those ones are just dumb designs. Yeah, the first one had really great designs and was really fun to watch. And it doesn't, I mean, since it is just a creative story for younger children, I would say it certainly holds up for younger children to watch. But I will say, if you didn't catch it as a kid, you might not enjoy it. I thought the kids were annoying AF. I don't like movies where little kids are running around screaming. The ones that I do like are ones that I did see as a kid. Because I have nostalgia and I'm used to it. So, like, if I saw The Goonies for the first time today, I don't know if I would like it. I can tell you right now, if I saw E.T. for the first time today, I wouldn't, because that kid's voice is so annoying. I do love him in The Haunting of Hill House. I didn't even realize he was the dad. It's amazing to think that, oh yeah, in 30 years, people grow up. But I thought, like, Atreyu, in the last scene, Atreyu and the Childlike Empress, I'm not really sure why they cut the footage the way that they did. So it's basically going from close-up, hard cut, close-up of the next character, hard cut, close up to the next character, hard cut, close up to the next character, especially when two of those characters are supposed to be in the same room. I think it would have been better had they just panned back out and had them just talking to each other with both of them on screen, or if they at the bare minimum had the dialogue or the audio bleeding into the previous scene or cut. So if you have you have footage here and you have footage here, you can have the audio bleed in from this one into this one, and it makes it seem more seamless, and it gives you the impression of, even if they didn't film on the same day and weren't there at the same time, it gives you the impression that they were and they're actually talking to each other. It's a fun little trick, and at the bare minimum, I wish they'd done that, because those characters don't seem like they're reacting to the same thing. The Childlike Empress is very calm, and she's just talking like this and talking to Bastion, while Atreyu was like screaming and freaking out, and like, it's like they should have, I don't think they were in the same room together when the scene was going on, and I wish they would have been, so they bare minimum could have been acting off each other and been tonally at the same point. I really hated that end. Anyway, danke für Sie hören. Haben Sie einen fantastischen Tag und wir rocken einen Moon Knight Film. Tschüss.